a story of deception, courage, and the reckoning. I had always thought of myself as an ordinary man, leading an ordinary life. I was the type of guy who believed in loyalty, who believed that when you commit to someone, it's for life. My wife and I had been together for over a decade, and we had built something special, a life, a home, a future. We had both worked hard, side by side, to get where we were. In my mind, everything was perfect. My business was thriving, our home was warm, and I believed we were happy. But little did I know, behind the closed doors of my own home, betrayal was already in motion, and it was about to come crashing down on me like a tidal wave. It started subtly, with the smallest things. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid, but as time went on, those little things began to add up. She started coming home later from work, sometimes hours later than usual. She was distant, not like the woman I had known so well, the one who used to curl up with me on the couch and share her day. No, this version of her was cold, withdrawn, and more secretive than ever. She had always been active on her phone, but now it seemed like she was constantly texting and always guarding her screen when I walked into the room. I tried to dismiss my suspicions, telling myself that work was stressful for her, or that she was just going through a phase. But when I found a text message on her phone one night, left open by accident, that's when everything changed. It wasn't a simple message. It was a series of texts between her and another man. I read the words, my hands trembling with each passing sentence. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I'll make sure he's out of the house." The message was clear enough. She was having an affair. The man she was seeing was someone I had never met, someone I knew nothing about. My heart sank into my stomach. The ground beneath me seemed to collapse as I absorbed the shock. How could this happen? How could the woman I loved, the one I trusted, do this to me? My mind raced with questions, but there was no time to waste. I had to know the truth. I had to confront her. When she returned home that evening, I was ready. My heart pounded as I asked her about the messages. At first, she denied everything. She claimed it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything, that it was just a harmless fling. But the more I pressed, the more her story crumbled. Her excuses became more desperate, her lies more transparent. Her eyes didn't meet mine, and there was a shakiness in her voice I had never heard before. I knew then that I had been right all along. This wasn't just a fleeting moment of weakness. This was a full-blown affair. But that wasn't the worst part. As I confronted her, I realized something even more sinister was at play. She wasn't just having an affair. She was involved in something much darker, something far more calculated. As I dug deeper into the man she was seeing, I uncovered a web of deception that went far beyond infidelity. His name was Mark, someone I had never heard of before, someone who had carefully wormed his way into my life through my wife. The more I learned about him, the more I realized that he wasn't just interested in her. He was after something much bigger. Mark wasn't just a lover. He was a manipulator, a man with a plan. And it became clear that he wasn't just using my wife to get close to me. He was using her to destroy me. His objective wasn't just to have an affair. It was to take everything I had worked for. He had been watching me, studying me. My business, my wealth, my success, it all made me a target. And my wife? She was the perfect pawn in his game. It took me a while to connect the dots, but eventually everything came together. Mark wasn't just some random opportunist. He had been plotting for months. He knew exactly how to manipulate my wife, how to make her believe that she could have a life with him, a life that didn't include me. His goal was to tear apart my reputation, to sabotage my business, and to use my wife as a stepping stone to secure his own future. I was nothing but an obstacle to him, a roadblock that needed to be removed. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Not only had my wife betrayed me, but she had also been complicit in a plan to ruin me. I felt like the ground had been ripped from beneath my feet. The anger, the disbelief, the hurt, it all mixed together in a whirlwind of emotions. But I couldn't afford to dwell on my pain. I had to act fast. I had to stop them before they destroyed everything I had worked so hard for. I began my investigation. I followed her, watched her, and documented every move she made. I kept track of her late-night meetings, the strange phone calls, and the cryptic messages. I gathered every piece of evidence I could find. I knew I couldn't confront her again without solid proof. I needed to expose their plan in a way that would leave no room for denial. Over the next few weeks, I became a silent observer of my own life. I watched my wife as she met with Mark at different locations, their conversations hushed and secretive. I followed them as they met in secluded parks, in empty office buildings, and even in hotel rooms. Each time I felt like I was sinking deeper into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But I couldn't let up. I couldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. I had to stay strong, even if every fiber of my being was screaming in pain. Finally, the moment came when I had everything I needed, every text, every photograph, every piece of evidence that tied them both together in their scheme. I had them. I knew what they were planning, and I was ready to take action. I confronted them. It wasn't an easy decision to make. I had to summon every ounce of courage I had left to face them both, to expose them for what they truly were. But I couldn't back down now. My future, my business, my very dignity were at stake. I invited them both to meet me at a neutral location, a small cafe where I knew we could talk without interruption. When they arrived, they had no idea what was coming. My wife walked in first, her face pale, her eyes avoiding mine. Mark followed closely behind, his confident demeanor oozing arrogance. I could see the smirk on his face, the way he thought he had won. He believed he had already taken everything from me, that I was a man defeated. But I wasn't. I had them exactly where I wanted them. I laid out the evidence in front of them, the texts, the photos, the details of their meetings, all of it. The shock on their faces was indescribable. My wife's expression was one of disbelief, while Mark's face turned white with panic as he realized the full extent of what was happening. He tried to deny it, tried to twist the truth, but it was too late. The evidence spoke for itself. "You think you can destroy me?" I said, my voice cold and steady. "You think you can take everything I've worked for, everything I've built? Well, you're wrong. I'm not going down without a fight." The truth was, I had already taken steps to protect myself. I had been preparing for this moment for weeks. I had a legal team on standby, ready to take action against both of them. I had made sure that my business, my finances, and my reputation were secured. They had underestimated me, and now they were paying the price. Mark tried to make excuses, to blame my wife, to say he was just a victim in all of this. But it was clear that he had no power over me anymore. I had won. I had exposed them, and I had regained control of my life. In the end, the aftermath was messy. My wife, consumed by guilt, begged for forgiveness. But I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Trust had been shattered beyond repair. As for Mark, he was taken down legally. His fraudulent schemes were exposed, and he was left with nothing. I had stopped their plan in its tracks and reclaimed everything that was rightfully mine. It wasn't an easy road to recovery. The emotional toll was immense, and it took time to rebuild my life. But I did it. I came out of this ordeal stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. I had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. And that, my friends, is the story of how I uncovered the truth, stopped their scheme, and reclaimed my dignity. It's a reminder that even in the face of the deepest betrayal, you can find the strength to rise again. No one can take your dignity unless you let them, and I wasn't about to let that happen. For more gripping stories like this, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your opinions. Thanks for your cooperation, and remember, no matter what life throws at you, never let go of your dignity.